I've had 1,000 conversations that all started the same way. Where are you from? How long have you been here? How long are you gonna be here? And then the kicker. What are you in for? And I'd had so many of these conversations after almost a decade that I didn't want to have them anymore. And so as I sat in a holding tank with a bunch of guys I didn't know waiting to see the parole board for the first time, I was completely silent. And I was listening to two guys that were having this conversation, and they were from the same side of the same town, and they knew all the same people, and they were talking about all the same things, and they were having a great time, and all I wanted was silence so that I could rehearse this script that I had been studying in my head for years. Because it was important. And as I'm sitting there annoyed, the guy next to me rolls up his sleeves. And tattooed on his forearm is a name. And it's an unusual name. And I looked at it for like 10 minutes before I blurted out. I used to know a girl named Nicole. My mother babysat her when I was a little kid. And I don't remember much about her, except that she caught her foot one time in the spokes of my sister's bicycle. And he said, she told me that story. This was the first time I'd ever met anybody that was from where I was from. I was in prison in Nevada, but I started out life as a Mormon Boy Scout in Utah. And so we did the dance of, where are you from? And he told me, and I said, me too. And, what street did you live on? And me too. And he was 4 years older than me, and that's why we didn't remember each other, but I could have thrown a rock at his front door from mine. And we started chopping it up about the teachers that we didn't like. We both hated Mrs. Worley in the second grade, And we talked about the kids in the neighborhood that used to beat me up, and they were all his friends. And we talked about why we were there. And we were kind of there for the same reasons. And as he was telling me the reasons he was there, I started hearing this script that I had prepared in my head for the parole board. But as I heard his reasons, they didn't come across as reasons. They came across as excuses and justifications. And before I knew what was happening, my name was called, and I went down the hallway, and I tried to push the door open, and the guard looked at me like I was from another planet because I couldn't make the door open, and he reached down and turned this thing called a doorknob that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And I went into a room where there was just a TV screen with some people on it, and a couple of caseworkers sitting over here, and I sat down, and they asked me, do you have an opening statement? And the script was gone. I was blank. I couldn't have said my own name. I couldn't think of a word to say. And I look over at this caseworker, whom I've known for years, and he looks at me like, you better say something. And all I could think to say was, I'm so fucking embarrassed to be here. And then I told him what happened down the hall with Michael's boyfriend and how I felt about that. And I told them about the way I was raised and the things that I believe. And I said I was sorry. And I told them that that was not the way that I wanted to be remembered. And when you go to the parole board, you don't find out right away if you're going to get your parole. You got to wait 2 or 3 weeks for them to go talk about it and make a decision. And for most people, that's the longest 2 or 3 weeks of their life. Every day they go to the caseworker, hey, do I have my yellow paper yet? Do I have my yellow paper yet? But I can tell you this. I made no excuses and I made no justifications. And when I walked out of that room, I knew that I would never see those people again. And if my Cole is out there and can hear me, I just want to say thank you for helping me get my parole.